compensate for the lack of intelligence of this thing by us writing really good software that runs really fast. And so voice recognition on things like phones is possible because computers have so much storage and they run so fast, and the algorithms that do voice recognition are finally starting to work. Input devices like keyboards and mice and pens and whatever, they come in. Output devices are like the screens that we see. The main memory is the fast part of the computer that stores all the programs, and the secondary memory is the permanent storage. Increasingly, secondary memory, do I have any USB sticks in here? I don't. Well, increasingly secondary memory is flash RAM or static RAM with no moving parts, and so you, in a few years, you'll not even be able to see secondary memory with moving parts. But that's okay. It's still secondary memory. It's still memory that lasts. And so you, and where your place is in here, is you live in the main memory. This is you. You are here. And so, in a sense, when the CPU asks the question, what next, it is your job to answer that. And you answer that by writing Python code. And so your Python code, you'll write a file in Python code, blah, 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 blah. And then that Python code sort of gets loaded into main memory. There's a magic translation process that happens. And then your code is actually answering this question 3 billion times a second. 3 billion times a second, you're sitting there. But this is you. You're really out here, but you then write a file, and the file's loaded in, and then the file runs. And that's how things are at. And that's your place in the world. Now, what's actually running is not Python code. There is, as I said, a translation process. You write a Python file, and then Python itself translates this into the actual language known by the microprocessor, which is a series of zeros and ones called machine language. Someday I would love to teach you a class on machine language, but for now we're going to teach you Python, and we're going to use Python as a crutch. We don't have to talk machine language, but you could, if you really wanted to, you could know how to write machine language. But I assure you, Python is far easier to learn than machine language. So Python acts as a translator, translates what you're doing into machine language, and then the machine language is what's sent back and forth. But still, even though it's translated to machine language, it's you. It is you answering those questions, and that's what a program is you pre-storing your response to the what next question over and over again. So here's a couple of videos that you can look at on YouTube about a CPU. These CPUs, and it looks very much like this CPU that I've got with me, these CPUs have extremely high heat. When you put this thing, or your computer, on your lap and it starts to heat up, that means it's thinking really, really hard. And so this is a small little old video from a long time ago that shows what happens when you take out the cooling capability of microprocessors and just how hot they can be. And the other video that I have is a hard disk, something like this hard disk that I have, except that it works and they turn the power on. Some of them last for a few seconds, some of them last for a few minutes. It's never I must be allergic to this hard drive. Or maybe it's because there's dust in this hard drive and I keep spinning it and I sneeze. But basically, some of them last for a few seconds, some of them last for a few minutes. It's not a good idea to open them up, but I'm glad somebody opened it up and then did what they did and then recorded it so we can all enjoy what it is that they're capable of doing. Okay? So that's a quick introduction to hardware, mostly so that I can use those words going forward. Now what we're going to talk about next is communicating in the language Python. That is, writing code and putting it into the computer so that that can execute. Okay? And welcome to my video that shows how to get started and install Python on Microsoft Windows. Okay? So it's not too hard. We're going to both install Python 3 and we're going to install a text editor. And so I'm just going to go into Google and I'm going to say install Python 3. And my top link is downloading Python. And there is my link for downloading Python 3.5.2. This version of my class uses Python 3. I have an earlier class that you may have seen that uses Python 2, but in this class we're going to do this. Now it might take you a while to download this. I've actually already downloaded it. Now the other thing we need is a programmer text editor. And you can really use any programmer text editor. We've used Notepad Plus in the past. We've used JEdit in the past. I like Atom, Atom.io, Tom.io, mostly because it works the same on Windows and Mac and Linux. But you can really use any text editor that you like. Just don't use Word or text edit that comes with the operating system. You need a programming editor that doesn't mess with weird characters or weird lines or strange formats. You must have a real programmer editor. And so I've already downloaded this as well. And so I won't waste the time waiting to download it, but let's go ahead and do the installation. So these things ended up in my downloads file. So I'll go to downloads and I'll start installing Python 3.5.2. Now it's going to ask me some things. Add Python 3.5 to the path. Yeah, that's a good idea. Install the launcher for all users. I'm going to add that. Maybe you will, maybe you won't do that. It's going to tell me where it's going to install it. Install now. Of course, it's going to ask me for permission to do these things. And now it's running through the installation. Okay, so there we go. You could maybe click on this online tutorial and documentation. But we're just going to close this. And I'm going to start and run the Windows command line. Now, you may have all kinds of fancy ways to run Python, but I like running the command line, COMMAND. I like running the command line because it's after a while it's important to know what folder things are being run in. And so here's this command line, and I should be able to type Python here. And so now I'm in Python 3.2, and this is the chevron prompt here is the Python interpreter, where it's asking for Python commands, and I can say print hello world. Of course, this is what we tend to print all the time. I can make a mistake. I can say blah, blah, blah. Right, and it'll complain to me. Now to get out of this, I can either type Control-Z or quit. In this case, I'm going to type Control-Z, and I'm back to the prompt. A couple of things. I can do a dir to see what folders and files I have, and that is like my desktop. And then the cd command tells me where I'm at in the folder. That means I'm in the users directory, Dr. Chuck. Okay, so I have now installed Python. I ran the Python interpreter to verify it. I said print hello world. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually install Atom. I already had this downloaded, so let's go ahead and install Atom on my computer. Okay, so Atom is now installed and it's kind of telling us what to do. I'm going to actually just close all these windows, close this window, close everything, and I'm going to create a file. I'm going to say print, in this case, let's see if I can make this bigger. I can make it bigger. So I'm going to type print hello from a file. Okay. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to say File, Save As. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my desktop. And I'm going to make a folder on the desktop. I'm going to call this folder PY4E. So I now have a folder on the desktop. Move this here. I'll move this here. Oops. And I'm going to go into PY4